Kia ora everybody, my name is Philippa Payne. I am the co-founder of Route 501 and Iwi in Oz. Erina Moranga and myself established Iwi in Oz, addressing the ongoing discriminative legislation that the Australian government was putting in place and implementing for New Zealand citizens living in Australia. Route 501 is an advocacy and support network where I do my best to advocate for people that are in immigration detention centres in Australia, predominantly New Zealand citizens. Yesterday, we were made aware that a 15-year-old boy has now been deported from Australia. I would like to express my araha and support for this young man, and for him to hear the words that he is valued and that he is our tamariki. To Mr. Peter Dutton, the Home Affairs Minister of Australia, hands off our children. Our children are our future, and our children will not be brutalised through your system. In 2018, Erina and myself worked alongside West Justice Australia, a community law organisation placed in Melbourne, Victoria. West Justice had become aware that New Zealand youth between the ages of 15 and 18 were the most affected by homelessness in that state. We had a young lady with enough strength and courage to come forward and share her story about having to give her body away in order to have accommodation. Our children are left vulnerable in Australia. Our children in Australia do not have access to the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Yet, their parents are compelled to pay into that scheme. This is putting harsh pressure on families when money is taken to support a service that their own children cannot access. They are then forced into raising funds in order to support their own child. Our children in Australia do not have access to higher education, not through student loans, not unless they have been there for 10 years. New Zealand children in Australia are becoming the working labour class task force. Australia is allowing our children to be discriminated against. Our children in Australia have no political representation. Their parents, many of them, do not have a fair pathway to residency. This means that they are unable to gain citizenship. Without that permanent residency, without that citizenship, they are unable to vote. This leaves our children voiceless. This leaves our children vulnerable. Our children cannot get social support in Australia. How and why did this boy end up in a situation through deportation? This starts with one child, but the spectrum is now open. It will not end with one. It is time for us as parents, as a community, as iwi, and as a nation to stand up and represent our children. I pray this message reaches those who can help us. I pray this message reaches those who are vulnerable. And I pray that we as a nation come together and support vulnerable children who are now going to be placed in a brutal, inhumane system. Thank you for your time. Kia kaha, Philippa.